Just out here near Bruthen, northeast of Bairnesdale with the Calverts. They run a sheep/dairy operation here, and wanted to come out here, meet with Craig, this is his dad Patch, and talk about how we could contribute back to the devastation that has been the fires that have passed through here over the last week. Wanted to get a better sense of some organisations that we could work back in with, so we've identified a few of those. We're going to have a portion of our sales this month and next month get donated back to Need for Feed, and also looking at a load of bulker bags to come out to the area, which we'll also try and channel back through Need for Feed so it gets to farmers who can utilise that feed. And I was talking to Craig on the phone earlier this week, and he just shared a few interesting snippets about his experience in the fires and fighting the fires, and I thought it'd be worth just coming out and have a chat to Craig and his dad here, who's also sharing some interesting stories. So I guess I wanted to put to you first, Craig, you've got a background in fighting fires. How was it different in this scenario to fires that you've seen in the past in terms of its just sheer velocity and size?
We've been rain deficient here for about 10 years, severe drought for about 4. So it was very dry. There's no subsoil moisture. We've had lots of crop failures or very poor yields of what did grow. As far as the fire goes, we knew it was coming. It tried to come into town. It was sitting around there for probably about a month beforehand. It sort of poked its head in to the edges around town, the outskirts, for the last 3 to 4 weeks. We lost kilometres and kilometres of fencing on the hill country here, where we usually run our dry heifers and our dry cow stock that are ready to calve down. We've lost a little bit of infrastructure, some sheds, some huts and stuff, and you can see behind us there's a fair bit of history being lost, to be quite honest. We had 4 fallback positions. Our last one was going to be on our dairy country down at the flat, where you got a 6k circle of grass that's no higher than an inch, to be quite honest. So you could, at the worst case scenario, you could have stepped over a fire if it got to us. The fire come over our hill over the behind us over here. It didn't touch the trees. It burnt the gas coming out of the trees, the preheated environment that it rushed through. Then we got a canopy fire, and we had to retreat and get more water. We came back in as soon as that canopy fire sort of passed. The ground fire come through, that hit as well. That's actually the thing that lit most things on fire, and the embers. Like, we can't run any cows up here, so our dairy cows and heifers and everything are all down on the flat. And obviously that's going to be a loss in production and milk value, because we're feeding double the amount of cows down there than we should be. So it's a loss on both fronts, and you can't touch too much until the assessors come, and you can't rebuild until the insurance comes through. So,
Thanks, Craig. You've answered my next 3 questions. That's the interview. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Patch. You've been great. You've been very, very valuable. No, look, I wanted to delve a bit more into, you were talking there, the waves of the different stages in the fire, and Patch, maybe you can answer this one. Well, you were talking about the fire front and how you had to abandon the building. What's that all about?
The fire front, when it first came through, that was bloody scary, to be perfectly honest. We all looked at that and said, right, this is the time to go. We'll pull back, regroup,
so describe
rewater.
That. Why are you doing that?
Well, when you look across the gully, and it's probably a mile wide, a kilometre and a half, something like that, and it's just a wall of flame, and it's marching at you in 25, 30 kilometres an hour. You can't outrun it. You can only drive it, and you got to drive away from it. You can't drive across it or anything else like that. So you have your avenue of escape planned. You exercise that, you get out, get ready for the next batch.
And what's that doing to the atmosphere?
Oh, look, it's just superheated. The amount of draft that comes in off that, when it goes through, it's quite noticeable, because it's sucking the smoke and everything away from behind it. So maybe you've got a northerly, it's travelling to the south. Once that fire front's passed, you've actually got a southerly behind it. You've got to actually be very mindful of the fire behaviour, how it goes. Have your plan, not just one escape. You need probably 3 or 4, but the preparation beforehand, My dear old mum, 87, she raked up leaves and sticks for probably 2 months beforehand. That's a factor. Having a sprinkler system in place that damped the place down, so any embers attacks that come in early that may utilise your water resources, and you've got to be able to do that. So sprinkler system has an effect. Block up your gutters.
Talk to me about that.
Make sure that your gut. Well, we just
maybe I went to a bad fire education school, but I didn't know how to block up my downpipe. So how did you do that?
Plastic bag with a bunch of rag and just force it down into it. Then when you fill your gutter up with a hose, it's watertight enough to hold it for several hours or whatever it happens to be. But the embers will fall and slide down the roof and into your gutter. And if you've got leaves in there, cobwebs, anything like that, it gets in under the roof iron or under your cladding. You've got a roof fire, you can't get to that. You will lose your house. Yeah. So a simple fix, have your gutters full of water. I don't know the percentages of all these factors, but that all comes into play. And the big one for us was being able to get straight back into it as soon as that major fire front passed. The heat and everything else is reduced because it's a huge fire front. It goes away and it's dragging in cool air to feed itself. As it passes, it's survivable behind it. And you can get in behind a fire if you know what you're doing within 10 minutes and put out all the spot fires around the place before they take hold. But you've got to be there to do that. Those who didn't have the ability to be at their house lost them. This is the second time this house has been under a major bushfire. 65 was the last one. I was only 10-year-old. My parents educated me. The fire behaviour of this fire was exactly the same in 65. The best thing I found is actually fighting fire at night. There's not as much smoke that you can see, so it visually doesn't upset you from the smoke angle. But the fire itself is far brighter, and you can not only observe it and work out which way it's heading or what it's doing or everything like that. Yeah. That's a bit of a positive in the help, but you've got far more because every little ember is glowing at you. It's like a million fox eyes sort of coming at you. You've got to be able to sort of say, right, prioritise. Which one is attacking what can I do? Yep. Because embers will blow past you and all the rest of it. You can't do every individual ember. Right. And quite often it's only one in a zillion that take a hold. But you've got to be there when it does take hold to act on it.
Was there ever a moment for you, Patch, when you thought, oh, she's getting a bit hot here, better back up?
The older you get, the less sense you get. So I tended to not focus on that. I was just too damn busy. Next day you do.
Alluding to the prop you're wearing on your head.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When you're fighting a fire like this and your hat's melting, maybe it would have been time to go. But had it got through the hat, I think then I probably would have pulled back.
The fireballs were coming over. They were jumping 400 to 500 metres across the gully. And they were just splashing down like water. And
so what I'm sitting here in the environment now, can you contextualise what size you're talking about in terms of the fireball? Like as big as that old...
Oh, no, that's a tiny one.
Or...
So the bush over there, just a massive firewall from there to here.
It was...
And it's just rolling
so
like this.
It just slaps on the ground like water and then just fire spreads and it sort of rolls and picks itself up again because it hits with such ferocity. It picks up all those sticks, leaves, and all that sort of stuff. Picks it up and throws it again. It might not throw as far the second time, or if it's got bush on top of it, it will throw further again.
And what's propelling
it? Lifts it.
The eucalyptus gas.
The heat.
Yeah.
The heat just draws in, and it slaps down. It sucks in all that oxygen and just lifts it again, and off it goes again. And it just keeps jumping forward and spotting and choosing its own direction on where to go, and you really got to be on your feet a bit.
There was a bit of glow from around the corner of the house. She stuck her head around, and the tank stands afire again for about the 15th time.
This one just
so
you put something out, then you come back and put it out again.
And again.
I put it out 3 or 4 times, and Dad goes, "Oh, I'll put it out twice." It's that hot that it dries it out that quick again and reignites. So like I put 1,000 litres of water on it. It was pretty cool. I could touch it by hand, come back, it's on fire again. The choppers were unbelievable. They
talk a bit about that. Like on the phone, you were telling me about how you had to actually be wary of the dump of water coming down because of just the volume.
They could see where we were. There's and they're extremely accurate. You think they're sort of just a bit slap happy, but they're not. They utilise that water to the best of their ability, and I'm sure with how they've done it over the time, they're actually very good at their job. I've flown a lot of choppers over the years and offshore and stuff like that, and those chopper pilots are good. They're an amazing aircraft for what you can do. It got to the point where there was no water left in anyone's dams around here, and they were actually dumping mud on us, and even that did the job.
I was working down there at the corner of the house, and that was quite a big fire, and it wasn't getting put out because it was in a sort of a wood heap, which we had to pull apart. And they could see, and I'm sure there's a spotter aircraft out observing what's going on, and it was called in, and as they're coming in, they let off a siren go. So you back off with your hose and step back, and I just gave them the thumbs up like so. Gave him probably 100 metres to get in and operate. There's a guy with his head out there, and he guides it right in over the top, and they just go blush. Couldn't be more accurate. There's small loads. There's small loads. It's probably, I'm guessing, maybe 300 to 500 litres, but it's so accurate that it's doing the maximum effort.
Oh,
if you had Elvis come over and drop it on a roof, it would cave the roof in. They don't do that. They attack out in the open country and put in strips and everything like that, and that's perfectly acceptable. That's a great job.
I've got no ambition to make this little video political at all, but what do you see, first for Craig and then maybe Patch, around the management of our forests and how that could be handled a little bit better so that these disasters don't get too out of hand?
It shouldn't be political, it should be social.
Well, yeah, that's right.
It's a social thing.
Of all,
yes.
Yeah.
But
right. in too many circumstances, it's made political, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a problem that's been there for about 40 years when they started locking up national parks and different sorts of areas
State
of bush.
forests.
And their idea of sort of I'm not saying the greenies completely, but the green movement, I suppose you'd call it, is to let things go back to nature and have that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling of that's how it's meant to be. Well, it's not, because that's not how it's been managed for the last 40,000 years with the Aboriginals. They'd move through the area, they'd take the tucker that they needed and everything else. They'd also use the fire for hunting and flush the game out to them. And then when they left, they'd light a fire, they'd come back. When they come back for the next tour around on their journey, it would be all new growth. It'd be nice and green. The animals would have food, but a nice slow moving forest fire. The animals can get out of the road. So, however you want to say it, I'm not aligning myself with any political party. This is how the Australian environment is meant to work. And if you don't know that, well, come and have a look, and we'll show you how it works. It's not our opinion. It's just the environmental
Fact of life.
Environmental landscape. So the thing is that if you lock something up and create a massive fuel load over a time period of undetermined time period,
5 to 10 years is too long.
It creates a massive problem, and you get a fire strike, a lightning strike or something, that it just takes off and it's uncontrollable. It really is. So you lose. They've done the opposite of what they've tried to achieve. So they've got the right idea. I do agree with that.
They're just not executing it.
They're not implementing it and executing it properly.
That knowledge is not lost, but it will be if we let it be. 40 years is fair, like half someone's lifetime, I feel. The Cattlemen's Association, who used to put some pretty big herds up there, and they're only up there in summertime, but that reduced that undergrowth and all the rest of it, and they never had devastating fires up in the high country.
Yeah, it's a good example.
And that was a good management thing. Yes, it wasn't a native species. Yes, there were some disadvantages, but overall the advantage was far, far greater in the positive. And I think, and I worry about those families that have done it for 150 odd years. That was not only loss of income, but it was the loss of heritage. I don't know of too many Aboriginal people that I've spoken through that said, oh, no, we don't want the cattle up in the high country, because they know that they were doing a pretty good, damn good job. If it's not a kangaroo eating it or a cow eating it, it's going to grow back.
Just adding to the fodder.
It just adds to the fuel.
The fire reserves, yeah.
Adds to the fuel. So that's possibly one thing that they need to change their mind on. because that did work.
Gentlemen, you've been an absolute pleasure to talk to. Could go on, but I've got a wealth of material there that I can cut up and use. So, Patch, is this your first post-fire interview?
Yes, I think it is.
Well done.
Thank you.
After a little promo on this front, maybe you'll get hit up by a few of the other media outlets there and take
I'm open to suggestions, and yeah, my fees are quite reasonable.
Yeah, Craig, I know this has been your 400th interview, so thank you very much.
Yeah. No dramas.
Which has been your favourite interview experience, by the way?
This is less nerve-wracking. I'm not.
We're almost friends.
I'm less imposing.
We're friends.
Smaller audience.
I know you on a personal level, and I know you're not going to change things to suit yourself, and then you don't look like an idiot in front of the camera. And
no, thank you very much, you fellas, for your time with me. I just wanted to finish, I suppose, by emphasising, aside from money and clothes and other assets, food that can be bought down here. I know a lot of clothes and food have come down here. They're actively discouraging people at this point from bringing any more, because there's just been an overwhelm of people donating goods, which is great. I know that the community is now just asking if you want to contribute to donate funds. So there's a few organisations that a number of people are recommending down here, including the Gippsland Emergency Relief, which is GERF. And if you wanted to donate funds back into the feeding of animals, then the likes of Need for Feed and the Victorian Farmers Federation are both great organisations to make sure it gets out to those who are most in need around the livestock feeding needs. And I suppose in the long term as well, it's really important for a more isolated rural region like East Gippsland in relation to our major cities to keep this beautiful area in mind for holidays away with the family in 10, 15 months' time, rather than think interstate or overseas. Maybe contemplate coming out to Conran and Croajingolong and Genoa and Lindenow and Meetung and Marlow and a whole bunch of places that are out this way. Get up to McKillop's Bridge, and I could keep going on and on. There's some really beautiful sites out here that I think are unknown to a majority of people back in Melbourne and up in Sydney, so keep it in mind.
There's not too many places, Nick, that you can go water skiing in the morning and snow skiing in the afternoon, and this place here has it all. It's just so compact as far as the tourism side goes. So this hasn't finished by any stretch of the imagination. We need to keep the momentum, but not necessarily today. If we can keep the momentum going quietly on for the next 12 months or something like that, and because it just takes time for the chippies to finish that job and get onto someone's rebuild, for the plumbers to do the same thing, for the all those trades to come in and wait for the insurance to trickle down and people start to rebuild their lives. That doesn't happen overnight, but the media tend to focus very clearly on, and then they'll move on to the next thing. We need to space this and pace this out so that it will continue to work and people's lives can be rebuilt. It's not going to be overnight.
Point well made, and that is a cut.